Hey, hello, vinyl community. How you doing? It's Matt. I'm back. I'm going to try again, folks. For those of you who saw my sick notification video a couple of days ago, I wasn't doing too good, and I'm still not 100%, but I feel a little bit better a couple of days removed from that video that I think I can finally get some videos going. So I thought I'd start with a short one today and take it from there and see how far I can get. But anyway, it was a bad cold. I still got it. I'm still coughing a little bit, but you know what? I figure if I cough, hack or whatever in this video, I'm not going to edit. I'm not going to do any video splicing. It is what it is. I'm just going to leave it in, and you're going to have to just tolerate my illness, okay? Because I want to get back doing videos. It's been about 3 weeks now, and I've been itching to do it. I miss it. It's so much fun, and when you're not doing it, it's you kind of think of all these little things you'd like to do, and you don't want to put them on the back burner too long. So anyway. Another thing I want to mention is you notice I have a new camera, so to speak. Joe noticed it, me and Mr. Mayo, when I did my sick notification video. He said, gee, just so you know, he says, your image is brighter and clearer. And that's because a couple of weeks ago, my phone broke. The screen went dark, and I had to go back to phone service and see about getting another phone. Luckily, I had insurance, thankfully, and I was able to get a new phone, and they upgraded it a little bit, so the camera on this phone's a little better. It's more widescreen, and it's a little clearer, I believe. So you'll have to let me know if you see a difference yourself, and Joe certainly noticed it right away. Anyway, what I thought to do for my first video, a real short one, just to get my feet wet again, get back doing this, is Beatle James Griffiths. How you doing, James? My friend over there in the United Kingdom. James was talking about some artists who didn't get a lot of love in the vinyl community. I don't know if he was the one who originated that, or if there's somebody else who he took the idea from. I don't know, so I apologize. I can't give another person credit if it was somebody else. But James is the video who I saw who was talking about some artists that he felt didn't get enough love on the vinyl community, and he wondered why. And I jumped on several of them. There was a few that I may explore just for listening purposes that James recommended. But there's a couple of artists that I'm going to talk about today, and then a third one I'm going to do in a separate video. The one in the separate video will be Buddy Holly. As you know, I'm a big Buddy Holly fan, and so I will do Buddy separately because I have a lot more of his material. But two of the other artists that James mentioned were Del Shannon and Roy Orbison. So I thought I'd show a few of the things I have from each of those artists and talk about them for a few minutes, and maybe just spark some debate or some talk, or maybe some other people show some of their Del Shannon or Roy Orbison material and talk about them a little bit. And so I thought I'd start with Del. As you know, Del Shannon was not born Del Shannon. He was born Charles Westover back in 1934. Big artist back in the late 50s, more so coming into the early 60s and whatnot. He had tons of top 40 hits, top 100 hits. He was one of the first artists, I believe he was the first American artist to cover a Beatles song. He did that in 1963 with a cover of From Me to You, which I believe charted. I don't know the exact chart number, but I believe it did chart. And of course, we all know him by his signature song Runaway, which is his big #1 hit in 1961, the year I was born, as a matter of fact. So that has some meaning for me anyway. And sadly, Del passed away way too soon. He took his own life in 1990, I believe it was, early 1990. He had been suffering, I guess, through the last couple of decades of his life. He'd been battling alcoholism, depression, and other issues on and off. I don't know all the details, sadly. I don't know all the details of what happened. But he did lose the battle with depression and his demons, and he took his own life in 1990, which was a sad day. It was sad to see that happened because he's such a rock and roll pioneer. He's now in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and he's just such a great artist, and he does deserve to be explored and looked into. So if you haven't checked out Del Shannon, I highly recommend it. So I don't have a lot of Del Shannon, but I'm going to show what I do have and talk a little bit about it. The first thing I have is this Del Shannon Sings. This was a series of albums that came out back in the day, and there were numerous artists that got the treatment with this series called Artist, in this case Del Shannon Sings. There was artists like the Duprees, the Rivieras, the Crest, the Shangri-Las. Let's see. Jerry Butler, Del Shannon was one of them. Just many artists were in this series called Sings, these vinyl records, which were on the Post Records, it was called. I don't know how far back this one actually goes. It's a stereo edition of Del Shannon Sings on the Post Records label. But it has a lot of his big early hits. You have Runaway, Hats Off to Larry, Two Kinds of Teardrops, Hey Little Girl, Swiss Maid, Handyman, Keep Searching, Stranger in Town, Do You Want to Dance, Two Silhouettes, So Long Baby, and Little Town Flirt. I mean, it's like a really great best of compilation of Del Shannon here. And there are numerous others. I do have one on CD. It was put out by it's in mono. It was put out by Rhino on CD, and it's called Del Shannon Greatest Hits. Okay, and this has 20 tracks, a little more than the Del Shannon Sings vinyl, but it has all the big hits. Obviously, it even has on this one. It even has much more because you get his cover of For Me to You that he did, and a few other hits later on in the later 60s. But two great little compilations, folks, and there's many more of Del Shannon. This is just two. These are the two I happen to have, but I'm sure you can find tons of Del on vinyl, tons on CD, best ofs, greatest hits. Now, Del went through a period, as I said, he was big in the 60s. Then coming into the 70s, he was really battling the alcoholism pretty bad from what I understand. And he went through a period where he wasn't doing too much and life was kind of bleak for him. But then in the early 80s, he kind of made a resurgence again. He got back into recording again. Some of the younger rock and rollers from the day in the late 70s, early 80s took an interest in Del and his career. And he ended up working on his next studio album, well, I should say his first studio album in many years in the early 80s with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. And this is the result right here. It's called Del Shannon, Drop Down and Get Me. This is my original copy I got in 1982. It's on the Elektra label. I don't know how good you can see the song titles. Nice picture of Del there. But Tom Petty produced this. And obviously Mike Campbell's on here, Ron Blair, you know, a lot of the guys from Tom Petty's band, the Heartbreakers, are on this album, produced by Tom Petty. And I gotta tell you, it's a good little album. It did have that hit on it. Do you remember the hit? Where is it on here? Oh yeah, Sea of Love. It was the top 40 hit, first song, Sea of Love. It was top 40 in 1982, and it was a little bit of a resurgence for Del. Many of you that are around my age might remember that. When he had that hit with Sea of Love, it was on the all over the top 40 radio, and Del had a little bit of a resurgence. Mine's still in the shrink wrap, as you can see underneath. It is in the shrink, but I keep it in this plastic protective case. And there it is, Del Shannon, Drop Down and Get Me. Highly recommended, folks. Give it a check, give it a spin, check it out. I'm not sure if it's on Spotify or one of those services, but give it a check. Del Shannon, Drop Down and Get Me, produced by Tom Petty. And the last thing of Del Shannon I want to show you today is after he did the Drop Down and Get Me album, he went through a period of a few years where he wasn't doing too much. But then in the late 80s, coming into the 90s, he passed away in early 1990, but right around that late 1989 into 1990 period, he hooked up with Jeff Lynne from ELO, and also still with Mike Campbell from the Heartbreakers and a few other people, and he started working on a brand new album after Drop Down and Get Me. And unfortunately, Del did not live to see this release. This was released posthumously after his passing in, I want to say 1991. It was finally completed by Jeff Lynne and the other guys, Mike Campbell, the people working on this. But this album is called Rock On. I'll show it nice and close for you. Rock On. Nice picture of Del on the back with the song list. And I have to tell you, folks, this is a great album, a great rock and roll album by one of the rock and roll pioneers. I highly recommend checking this out. Del Shannon's Rock On album came out in 1991 posthumously, and folks, I can't recommend it highly. His last two albums that I'm aware of, unless there's another album I'm not aware of, and I apologize, I'm not an expert, but these are the last two albums I'm aware of that Del Shannon released. and I highly recommend them. They are both great, great albums. Not sure if Rock On is on vinyl. It may be, maybe imported or overseas. I have it on CD. You can still get this on CD if you look online, and I'm sure you can still get Drop Down and Get Me. But folks, check out these two albums. If you're a fan of good rock and roll, the rock and roll pioneers, check out Del Griffith's Rock On and Drop Down and Get Me. Okay, and as I said, after this was released posthumously, sadly, Del did take his life in 1990. I'm sure any of you that follow music history are aware of that, sadly. But, you know, we still have the legacy of his music. He has wonderful, wonderful material, great top 40 hits, and I highly recommend those final two albums, Drop Down and Get Me from 1982 and Rock On from 1991. Check them out. I think you'll be very happy with them. Okay, let's move on to Roy Orbison. That's why I'm wearing my glasses today, and that's why I'm wearing my little shirt here. Roy Orbison. Again, I don't have a ton of stuff on Roy Orbison. I have what you would think, you know, the average fan would have. I have a couple of best ofs and a couple of his studio albums. The first thing I ever got from Roy Orbison, believe it or not, was back in the 80s. I think this came out in, I forget the year it came out, on Virgin label. But it's Roy Orbison in Dreams, The Greatest Hits. Roy re-recorded many of his original hits and put it out on this CD, which was it came out around the time of that Blue Velvet movie. Remember that Blue Velvet movie where the song In Dreams, I believe, was in? Was that the song that was in the movie? I forget. Apologize, folks. But if you've ever seen the movie Blue Velvet, you'll know what I'm talking about. I think they released this compilation to kind of cash in on the success of that movie Blue Velvet, which featured, I believe it was Roy's In Dreams was the song that was featured. And so I picked this up at the time. I knew of Roy. I was a fan of him in the mid-'80s, but I picked this up, and I happened to see him. He was one of the rock pioneers I happened to see live in the middle to, I want to say 1986 or 87 or so. Might have even been the last year. He passed away, sadly, December of 1988. And I might have seen him the summer of 88, I'm not sure, but it was sometime in that frame of 87, 88. Roy and the Beach Boys had a co-headlining bill playing at a venue near me, and I got to see Roy Orbison live, and I'm very grateful and thankful for that. So I have this Greatest Hits compilation In Dreams, and again, there's so many compilations of Roy's Greatest Hits. This is the vinyl I have of Roy's best of. It's the all-time Greatest Hits of Roy Orbison. Pretty good shape. The cover's, you know, a little worn and torn, but not too bad. And here's the center. Gatefold. See if I can get that so you can see it okay. But this is a really great compilation. Has, as you know, all the hits you would think would be on here are on here. Only the Lonely, In Dreams, Candyman, Dream Baby, Crying, Mean Woman Blues, Running Scared, Love Hurts. I could go on and on. I'm Hurtin', It's Over, Blue Bayou, Oh Pretty Woman. I mean, Roy had so many great songs, so many great hits. And again, you know, whether it's on a compilation like this, on CD, or on vinyl, I highly recommend seeking out, if you want to get into some Roy Orbison, start out with one of his compilations, one of his greatest hits or best ofs, whether it be CD or vinyl, or if you're really not sure, go to Spotify. Roy's all over Spotify or one of those pay sites. Pay services, and you can check out his music for, you know, virtually nothing, just to see if you like it. But highly recommend checking out the best of Roy Orbison. And again, very grateful I got to see him live back in 87 or 88, I think it was, with the Beach Boys. I also picked up, do you remember back in right before Roy passed away, he did the Roy Orbison Black and White Night with Bonnie Raitt, Bruce Springsteen, Jackson Browne, Elvis Costello, J.D. Souther, Tom Waits, Jennifer Warnes. You may remember that special on HBO or Showtime. I also have the DVD of this, which is fantastic. If you get a chance, check out the DVD of this show, this concert with all those special guests. But they also have the CD of it, which I highly recommend, and I believe you can also get it on vinyl. But it's a great show. There's a picture of all the folks that were helping Roy out that night, and with the song list. But highly recommended, folks. This is fantastic. Roy Orbison, Black and White Night. Okay. Now, The next thing I'm going to show is his 1989 album, I believe. I believe it was completed in 1988. Roy passed away, unfortunately. He was born in 1936. He passed away December of 1988 at the age of 52, which was so unfortunate because he had just finished up recording the first Traveling Wilburys album, as you know, and he was making some videos with the guys. They had finished the first video, Handle with Care, and they were just getting ready to start up the second video for End of the Line. Which sadly, Roy passed away, and there was even talks and rumors that they might be touring at some point. And we can only imagine if Roy hadn't passed away, if perhaps the Traveling Wilburys, including George, Dylan, Jeff Lynne, Tom Petty, might have toured. We can only dream about it now. But Roy released an album, or posthumously it was released, as it says here, the first all-new Roy Orbison album in 10 years, includes the single You Got It, She's a Mystery to Me, All I Can Dream Is You. It's his famous Mystery Girl album from, I say, 1989, I believe it came out, just after his passing, and it had been completed. What a fantastic album. Great, great album, folks. This is my original, still in the shrink wrap, still with the hype sticker, on the Virgin label. Okay. Doesn't come with too much, just your standard. Okay. But that's my original Mystery Girl, and I can't recommend this highly. Bono and The Edge from U2 helped him with one song, Mystery Girl. Elvis Costello co-wrote a couple and plays on here. Just a wonderful album. And you all know the big hit on here, You Got It, which was big top 40 back in the day. What a great song. What a great album. Beautiful album. And then a few years ago, the deluxe double disc came out, which included bonus cuts and a little booklet. Alright, highly recommend this. You get not only the Mystery Girl album, but you get a second disc of like demos, alternate takes, acoustic demos, and run-throughs. Fantastic. So this is Mystery Girl Deluxe. I believe was the like 25th anniversary edition or something. I believe it was, yeah, because I have the LP set here, so let me see what the LP set says here. Yeah, I just want to put my stuff away. Mystery Girl, 25th anniversary limited edition, 2 LP set on high quality 180 gram vinyl with 9 previously unreleased bonus songs. So it's just like the CD I just showed you, but here's the vinyl on a double vinyl with all the cuts on the back. Can't recommend this album enough, folks. I mean, check out Best of Roy Orbison, check out his greatest hits. But I cannot stress enough that Mystery Girl, his final album that he completed just before his passing, is one of the best albums that have ever come out, in my opinion, in the last 25 years. I love this album. I really think you'll love it. And any of you that have heard it, I'm sure you love it as much as I do. This is a great, great album. Roy Orbison, Mystery Girl. Check it out. Now, a couple of years after his passing, I think you can get this on vinyl, but I only have the CD. His family took some material that was incomplete. He hadn't finished or partially completed. And his family, got some help, and they worked on completing the songs and putting this together. It's called King of Hearts. I'm not sure the year it came out. I think it's like 1994 or something like that. But it was, within 4 or 5 years after his passing and after Mystery Girl came out, they took some leftover things and finished them up, threw it together. I think Jeff Lynne helped with this as well to put it together. And it's called King of Hearts. It's not, in my opinion, as good as Mystery Girl. Of course it wouldn't be. But you know what, for what they did with it, and Jeff Lynne stepping in and helping finish the tracks, it's not a bad little album. If you're a Roy Orbison fan, my cover broke on it, but if you're a Roy Orbison fan, I highly recommend getting it just to have it and listen to it. Roy Orbison, King of Hearts. So again, let me just put the last 2 up that I talked about, because get the greatest hits, definitely get his greatest hits, folks, but highly recommend getting Mystery Girl, and if you're really a fan, get the one that was released a couple of years after his death called King of Hearts, that was put together by his family and Jeff Lynne. But this one, this is the keeper right here. Mystery Girl is an outstanding album, one of the best albums released, as I said, in the last 25 years. Well, that's it, folks. I'm about 20 minutes, and I wanted to keep this fairly short, and I wanted to spread the love for Roy Orbison and Del Shannon. Thanks to Beetle James Griffiths, for his suggestion of talking about these two artists in one of his videos. And I hope you'll enjoy this, and hope my voice seemed to hold up, so that's good. So it's good to be back. Hopefully I'll get a couple more done for you, and you may have some watching to do. So enjoy, and thanks again. God bless, and looking forward to my next one with you. Bye-bye.